Okay, now the Democrats, this old video that shows the ICE officer, he's slightly limping, but he's still walking. Okay? And that's what CNN just put on. But here's the deal. It don't matter if he was just minor injury. Minor injury. The thing is, people are forgetting the one real fact. The real facts. She knew the ICE agent was in front of her while she wasn't moving. Okay? She wasn't moving. And the reason why, when he walked around the vehicle and went to nail the front, he wasn't actually gliding front. He was just kind of left of the front. Now, people don't understand the federal memo, the federal procedure discourages from officers walking to the front of a stopped vehicle. It just discourages. It is not banned in the memo. So he can do that. Okay. And now that says, well, people said, well, he shouldn't walk to the front. Well, he's not banned from doing that. Okay? He's not strictly banned from doing that. So, we'll get that out of the picture. Now, second, she saw him, okay? His video shows that she was looking at him everywhere he went. I mean, he was walking around the vehicle, and her wife was right there in back of the vehicle. So, we can tell that she was not a threat to the officer when he walked him back. She wasn't moving. I mean, she wouldn't have hit her wife. Hopefully, she wouldn't have hit her wife, who was in back with the officer, walking with the officer at that time. And then he finally goes to the left of the vehicle, near the front. Okay? She's looking at him. You can see that in his footage. She knows he's there. But what does she do? She puts on the gas, starts moving forward. That is when she became a perceived threat. That's when the officer can have reasonable fear that she was going to hit him. Okay? And you can see in that video, okay, that you can see in the video, the second video, well, it's the side of the vehicle where the other officer's on. You know, the other officer's on the door handle, okay? They're on that side. But the second video shows it on the other side of the car. And you can see when she pulls out, he steps a little back to try to avoid the vehicle. But he can't avoid it because she's still going towards him. So she hits him. Alright? Now, she weaponized that vehicle, made it a weapon, and she hit him. Now, some people say, well, maybe he got hit, he can't shoot. No, that is not. That is totally against what federal law and federal procedure says. Once she hit him, you know, she has shown that car is a deadly threat. But it doesn't even have to hit him. Now, some people say, well, you know, he can't shoot until after he's hit. No. That's another thing in federal law and procedure. He can shoot before he is hit. Okay? Once that car is coming towards him, and it's reasonable fear and perceived threat, he can shoot. And some people say, well, he shot 3 bullets. Okay, first of all, he shot after he was hit. Second of all, officers don't just shoot 1 bullet. Okay? Whether it was at a vehicle that was trying to hit them, or whether it was somebody with a gun shooting at them, they don't just shoot 1 shot. You know what they typically do? They discharge the weapon until the threat is done. That's why you hear them, and it's not just one officer that does that. All the officers do that. In this case, all he did is shoot 3 shots. And that was after he was hit. Well, he could have discharged his weapon. Could have just... See, that's the thing. People want to... And the part is, they want to look at the totality of the situation. Well, looking at the video from the officer, she comes up to antagonize. She obstructs the traffic, and she's telling the officer she's obstructing him. And she's antagonizing him. You know? She basically said she's doing it to stop the whatever they're doing. And it seems like, one video shows there was lots of ICE members there. So we can believe that why there was lots of ICE vehicles was because they were running an operation in that area, right there at that place. And that's the reason they didn't just go around, like people said. You should have just went around. Because the operation was there. That lady knew the operation was there. Why she put her vehicle there? To obstruct the operation. So, the fact is, they weren't going to go around. Okay? They're not going to go around and not do the job. They were there in that city to do a lawful immigration enforcement. Lawful immigration action. That the state, the city, cannot stop them from doing lawful immigration actions. They need to look up the law on immigration. They have a right to be there. They have a right to. Come enforce their operation. Now, people say, "Oh, wait, she's a U.S. citizen." Okay, again, ICE can detain U.S. citizens. 2 reasons they can detain U.S. citizens. The first one's obvious. If the U.S. citizen is obstructing traffic, obstructing an operation, assaulting an officer, but the other reason is if they assume, if they assume the U.S. citizen is not a U.S. citizen. They can detain them for a while on that one. And that's been happening, and people have been saying, wait, detaining U.S. citizens. Well, they can detain U.S. citizens if they believe that that person is not a U.S. citizen. Okay? So, people don't understand that point. Now, they want to say, well, ICE officers are not police officers. They are. They are federal law enforcement officers. They are trained by the same way as regular officers. They go through the school. They go through training. They go through all the same things a local law enforcement officer. They're not just picked off the street like Democrats want to say. So, the thing is, they want to make this woman a hero, the press. CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, Miami Herald, Los Angeles Times. They all want to make this woman a Seattle Times. They all want to make this woman a hero. ABC News, CBS News, NBC News. They all want to make this woman a model. The problem is, she was no model. Like I said, if you're looking at the totality of the situation, everything she did from the beginning she got over there, she was trying to cause something to go wrong with the ICE operation. Okay? She was trying to do everything in her power, and it ended up getting her killed. See these experts you see on the news networks, except a few. Frank Pilazzo of CNN, he told it like it is. Even though CNN was paying his paycheck for that moment, he didn't give the narrative that CNN wanted. You had Eli Honig and John Wackalow do that. So, They're the ones that gave the fifth. You saw on various ABC networks and NBC News and even CBS, these so-called experts, give the whatever the network wanted them to say. Basically they were paid. There was one, I believe it was a former San Bernardino County Sheriff on CBS. He actually said something different than what it was funny because the journalist was trying to get him to say something, and he says it differently. In her face, you can see in her face, she didn't like what he said. So the problem is that to see if it's justified, you're going to see a few things. Number one, what was she doing? What was Renee Good doing to the ICE and law enforcement officers? She was antagonizing, and she was a destruction. Number two, was the car moving when the ICE officer went near the front? No, it wasn't. Because if it was, it would have she would have hit a wife. And she wasn't intending to hit a wife. Now, when he was there, and then she take the car and put on the gas and move up towards the officer? Yes. We saw that in all 3 of the videos. Actually, the first 2 were better. The second one, 2 were better. The second one comes from the other side of the vehicle. And then the camera from the ICE officer. Now, number 3, did you know the ICE officer was in front? Yes, she knew. We saw that, she knew. She was following him while he was walking around with, looking around. She knew he was in front. And that gives you, did he get hit? Yes, he did. So she did hit him. So looking at that basis, you do see that ICE officer was justified. If you want to blame someone, you blame Renee Good, who took it upon herself to try to become immortal. But all her actions, all she had to do is her family member said she was dropping off her kids and going home. She should have just went home. But no, she found out somehow they were running an ICE operation in that area, and she went to obstruct it. Now we have a 20-year law enforcement veteran, a Christian, a father, being demonized, not only by Democrats, state, local, and federal ones, but he is being demonized because by the mainstream press, not just Washington Post, not just New York Times, not just the national mainstream media, but I've been seeing it on local news like KCTV5, KWCH, KSN, Wichita Eagle, Kansas City Star. And that's the local news close to me. Your local news would be in Pittsburgh, wherever you live, your city paper, your city news, broadcast news. They're all doing it nationwide, attacking this officer. He doesn't have a player in the United States, even if he's organized. Even if he's justified, all these people that have been demonizing him are going to riot. I am not kidding. They are going to do the same thing that BLM did. Okay? When officers were justified, BLM attacked. BLM burned down buildings, burned down streets, looted, assaulting officers, burning down police buildings, attacking the Portland Federal Center. All because of what happened, because the officer was well justified. And that is what these Democrats, and yes, Majority of these people that are anti-protest, anti-ICE protesters, majority of the people in the BLM riots were Democrats. They supported Democrats. Democrats listened to them. It's just like this. The anti-ICE people, it's the Democrats listen to them, not Republicans. Republicans are not even listened to. Well, there are a few Republicans. I got to go back. There's also Representative Thomas Massey. He's trying to listen and do everything the Democrats do because he doesn't like Trump. And that's another thing. The people are demonizing this 20-year law enforcement veteran because they either hate ICE or they hate Trump. They're not going to look at the actual facts. Okay? And that goes with these so-called experts. These so-called experts, they either hate ICE or demonize or they hate Trump. Even that former ICE official, that was from the Biden administration or the Obama administration, he's saying his opinion because he hates Trump. Not based off the facts. He's saying it because he hates Trump. I'm not saying he hates ICE, but I'm saying he hates Trump. So we're going to see this ICE officer demonized, and if he's world justified, all these people are going to do is do no violence, and they're going to do no violence against officers, violence against business owners. They're going to do everything that BLM did because they didn't get what they want. We have a mayor telling a mayor in Minneapolis saying, get the fuck out when it comes to ICE. And he says, that guy's guilty, get the fuck out. We have the governor saying that he was going to send the State Bureau of Minnesota State Bureau of Apprehension, which is supposed to be an independent government agency, to go and do the federal investigation, join with the federal investigation, to get his results, what he wants. And it goes to the Portland shooting. Now, the Portland shooting. The people that Border Patrol, now this is Border Patrol, this isn't even ICE. Border Patrol was going after these two people because they were connected to the TAG gang, or TEG, whatever, the trans gang, or, sorry, not trans gang, but, I can't even say the word, the TAG or whatever. And the TAG is known for killing, torturing, and known for doing all that violent stuff. Now, they're saying, oh, well, he didn't have evidence, okay? He had enough evidence to go down because this was not a random check, okay? This was a targeted apprehension by the Border Patrol, not by ICE. Border Patrol doesn't just, it's not like ICE. They don't go and do the random checks, like ICE. ICE could do random, pick an area and go do random. Border Patrol does targeted apprehension. And this is what it was. Okay? Now, they said the ICE, the Border Patrol officer is lying that the person weaponized the vehicle. Now, here's the deal. That governor in Oregon and that mayor in Portland don't know that. Okay? They don't know that. It will come out. There will be evidence and probably some videos because I'm pretty sure when you have people rushing down the street fleeing, there's got to be some video of that. Some bystander. And when the shooting happens, there's got to be someone out there that took video of that, But there hasn't been video yet, and there hasn't been any other evidence. And then they said, ICE, get out of here. Well, they can't tell ICE to get out of here. Again, they are federal law enforcement officers. They have a right to go to any state, any city they want. It's under immigration law. So, what they're doing, the people in Portland, the people in, or the Democrats in Oregon, the Democrats in Portland, the Democrats in Minneapolis, the Democrats in Minnesota, what they're going to do is incite a riot. And they actually had, after Jacob Floyd did his speech, after Walsh did his speech, they had in Minneapolis people fighting with ICE officers, federal law enforcement officers, going, finding them, and actually assaulting them, and running over to take turns to assault them. But you know what those ICE officers did? They arrested and detained those people assaulted. They came up it started like they were coming up to the face of the officers saying, come on, do it. Come on. And then when that didn't work, they went to try to hit the officers. And when they were taking out one guy, another guy came in to try to hit an officer. And that was after the speech. Now, Jack Smith, was looking at the Insurrection Act, for Trump to see if his speech at his rally was enough for incitement. Jack Smith said no. But if we're going to look at the speech, we need to look at Jacob Floyd and Governor Walsh. We need to look at the Portland, Oregon mayor, the Oregon governor, and see if maybe that might be incitement for whatever happens after. Like that the people fighting ICE agents. That came after Jacob Floyd's speech and Governor Walsh. Could what they were saying incite? Yes, because they were basically telling them, get the F out. If you don't get the F out, we're going to have to do something. And that's how those protesters took it. Because ICE didn't leave after Jacob Floyd said, get out. So the protesters thought, okay, that meant Jacob Floyd is endorsing us to go beat the officers up, so they leave. So maybe we should look at the Insurrection Act against Jacob Floyd and Governor Walsh and the Portland governor and the Portland mayor and look and see if it's incitement. It might just be incitement. Okay? Now, the only one that was calmer is the Portland City Police Chief. He said everybody's talking about through emotions. They're making decisions by emotions, not by facts, not by law. And he said that right in front of the mayor and the governor who were speaking by emotion. So he was actually pointing specifically at the people that spoke before he did. And he said that we in Portland Police are helping and assisting in the federal investigation. We are support. Now, here's the deal. The Minnesota apprehension got kicked out, and they got kicked out not because Trump said Tim Walsh was a stupid person. Trump is just saying, no, it was because Tim Walsh says, and I quote, well, not quote, it's a paraphrase, that he's sending the State Bureau to get the results he wants to get. That's not independent, okay? And now we have Keith Ellison, who's a Minnesota Attorney General, and then we have the Hennepin County District Attorney saying no running their own investigation. But both of those people already said that ICE officer is guilty. How independent is that? Now, people say, oh, well, Trump's the president. Okay. And DHS was involved. Okay. The problem is, yes, Trump's the president. Okay. Now, here's some layers you don't want to talk about. First of all, the FBI is part of the DOJ. The DOJ is conducting an investigation, not DHS. Second of all, the DOJ has an inspector general. The inspector general doesn't care about Trump, okay? He has called out Trump. He didn't say Trump, but he says the president's involvement messing with the case. He's called out what the president Trump has done. He's called out the fact that the appointed officials done. He's the same one that cleared the investigation of Hillary Clinton. He's been there a long time, the DOJ Inspector General. Like I said, he cleared the investigators of Hillary Clinton. So, he doesn't care about the president. He doesn't care about what the appointed officials do. He's going to give a thorough examination on his belief. So, that's the thing. So, to say, oh, well, it's Trump's administration. Well, it's being examined by the Inspector General. So, the Inspector General can't bring charges, but he can put out a report, and they always put out his reports. They don't hide his reports. There hasn't been a time they hid his report. Trump hasn't even tried to hide his report. And the reports came out, and there's accountability right there, at least for Congress to have said, well, Congress can look at this and say, oh, the Inspector General said this. Oh. And that's the thing. Instead of demonizing the 20-year law enforcement veteran, instead of working on emotion or working on hatred for ICE and hatred for the president, look at the facts.